QVC, you know what I mean? Like you could, so you're doing all kinds of liberty-oriented stuff, and these guys know how to reach people, I'll tell you. Love these guys. All right, I want to just divert real quickly because I have a special guest really quickly. Her name is Princess Cleo, and she is among the legions of people who are serving you tonight. Princess Cleo, come on up here because, listen, if you're going to have to wear a mask, which is what all the people mandate these people to do, you have to wear a mask like this, right? You have to wear a mask like this.
Hello, everyone.
She's your water and tea fairy, just so you know. Just so you know. Princess Cleo, how happy are you to just be working and part of this whole vibrant community here, whatever?
I am so happy to be here tonight and serve you guys. We want to make sure that you have the best possible service, and I hope you have a good night.
Thank you. Yeah, see, that's the caliber of America that we see every single day. These people who are busting their rear ends and doing a great job. So, if you have a few extra bills, I don't know, is that legal? Is it okay? Do you guys accept tips or something like that? I don't know. Gets you into trouble. Anyway. All right, here's another guy that I've known for a long time, and man, he's the nicest guy on the planet. I remember meeting him when he was first running for the State House, and he was representing Kirkwood at the time. And Eric Schmidt, and his mom was a big listener to the show, and he just has a wonderful family, wonderful kids, and is among many people who are getting their hands dirty in the U.S. Senate race. I mean, this is what it's all about, is people stepping up and doing their part and deciding that it's either go big or stay home. And Eric has done a great job as our Attorney General. He signed on, of course, to that Texas lawsuit, which was a pivotal thing. But even though the Supreme Court ignored it, he still got himself out there and did it on our behalf, because we know what happened in 2020, and Eric did too, and he wanted to sign on to that and was a fighter for us, and now is wanting to be your fighter in the U.S. Senate. So, ladies and gentlemen, Attorney General Eric Schmidt.
Thank you. Let's give another round of applause for all the folks working here tonight. How about that? And I just want to say how proud I am, as somebody that grew up not too far from here with a dad who worked 7 days a week in the midnight shift, how proud I am now that the Republican Party is uncontested the party of working families. There's no question about it. Now, I am going to spare you the platitudes and get down to the brass tacks. I am running for the United States Senate to defend our values and to defeat socialism. We need proven fighters, ladies and gentlemen. We need proven fighters to go to Washington, D.C. We need reinforcements to save America. Joe Biden has been in office for less than 250 days, and it already feels like our culture and our country is slipping away. The agenda that Biden, Harris, Pelosi, and Schumer are pushing is the most radical we have ever seen. Open borders and amnesty, taxpayer-funded abortion, attacks on our religious liberties, job-crushing regulations, billion-dollar bailouts for blue states, and higher taxes for you and me. And if you dare, by the way, disagree with this insanity, the big tech censors will try to cancel you. They want to cancel out every conservative voice, and they want to teach our kids to despise America. The radical left in Washington, D.C. is working every single day to tear down all of the great progress that we saw under President Trump. And my record is very clear. I fought alongside President Trump at every single turn and for those America First policies that brought us unprecedented growth. And a secure border, and energy independence. And speaking of big tech, and I'm going to talk a little bit, well, a lot, about a lot of the lawsuits that we've got pushing back on this. We've got a lawsuit to push back against Facebook for their censorship activities and break up Facebook. We've got a lawsuit against Google to break up Google. It is time to break up big tech. The big tech oligarchs need to understand that we're not going to take it anymore. And when it comes to big tech, I'll share one story. I had an opportunity to be at the White House last fall in late September. Senator Hawley was also there. Let's give a round of applause for Senator Hawley. Great work he's doing. And with some other AGs, and we were there with the president. Now, I had been to the White House before, but I had never been in the West Wing, and so I didn't really know where I was going. Just ushered us into the cabinet room, which is this room where a lot of big decisions have been made over the years, with portraits of Truman and others. And I got in there a bit early, and I saw the placard, and I was across the table from President Trump, like directly across the table. And I had seen enough episodes of The Apprentice to know that in that position, you better be ready, you know. So I was ready for all kinds of questions. And he was so engaged and asked so many questions and was concerned at that time about what might happen in November with election integrity efforts, because the Democrats, make no mistake about it, use COVID as an excuse to loosen those election integrity protections. There's no doubt about it. And so anyway, so I'm there, and I brought a picture. I was the only guy that brought a picture. I brought a picture of me and the president from like a year before, and one of his advisors was next to me, and I tossed it over. I said, hey, would you mind getting this signed? You know, would you get this signed for me? And he's like, sure, no problem, no problem. So we're leaving, and someone taps me on the shoulder and says, Mr. Schmidt, if you want to get that picture, just go out this door and make a left, and a right. And so I walk out the door and make a left, and a right, and I'm in the Oval Office now, which I had no idea where. I thought I was going to like pick it up from some receptionist, you know, at the front desk. And so I'm in there, and it's just me and the president, and Jared Kushner's there, and the president says, Eric, come on in. He's like, it's Eric with a C, right? And I said, yes, Mr. President. He goes, you know, my son's name is Eric. And I said, I know that, Mr. President. It's a great name. And he said, it is a great name. And here I'm just, you know, I'm in front of the president and all the great things that he's done, just such a great leader. And he's looking at me and looking at the picture, and he's a tall guy. You know, he's like 6'4". And I'm taller than him in the photo, and, you know, and he goes, Eric, how tall are you? And I said, 6'6", Mr. President. He goes, that's fantastic. That's great. And he signs the photo, but he hands it back. And in the midst of all of this that's happening, how busy his schedule is, he wanted to know how the people in Missouri were doing. And he wanted me to tell people when I got back last fall that he's working his tail off for the people. And so all the things that, you know, are going on, that is where his mind always was. And I walked out, and the other AGs were like, what are you doing in the Oval Office? I said, well, you should have brought a picture. I don't know, you know. But I spent my time fighting alongside President Trump, was the first elected official, statewide elected official in the country to come out in support of the tax cuts. We stood alongside President Trump again on big tech. We stood alongside President Trump on the impeachment sham. Supported law and order when the president was doing some of the things that these big city mayors and prosecutors won't do. We fought alongside President Trump, and I was the first attorney general in the country to sue communist China for releasing the coronavirus on the world. And not to bury the lead here, Jamie mentioned it. We fought alongside President Trump defending election integrity. And we didn't just sign on to that brief. We wrote the Pennsylvania brief and recruited other states. We wrote the Texas brief and got other states. So Missouri was front and center in that fight, and I'm proud of it. And when we were in his office the day that that was filed, again, in the cabinet room, I told President Trump, just to bring that story full circle, I said, you know what? We are here to fight for you. We are here to fight for election integrity. We are here to fight for America. And I'm never going to stop doing that. And the left will try to intimidate us. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. I'm not going anywhere. Now we're fighting against this radical Biden agenda. So whether it's the canceling of the Keystone XL pipeline, we're suing President Biden on that. And by the way, a total betrayal of the American worker. This president, a total betrayal of the American worker. And my response to that is, I'm going to take a blowtorch to his agenda as your Attorney General. And I want to take that same fighting spirit to Washington, D.C. So whether it's the Keystone XL pipeline, whether it's the Remain in Mexico policy, which, by the way, was working, that he canceled on day one, we've got a lawsuit to win on that as well. And so all the big fights, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a fight to save America. And so whether it's taking on critical race theory, I'm in that fight. Whether it's a fight to protect your Second Amendment rights that came from God, by the way, not a king or a queen or any government. Those are rights that you were born with, and that government is just there to protect those rights. And as your Attorney General, I will never waver from protecting you and the Second Amendment right that you have. On pro-life legislation, we've got a case, a big case, the heartbeat bill that the legislature passed. We're defending that, and also making sure, and it's important to me as the father of a child with special needs, that every life matters, including the eradication of individuals with Down syndrome that we see right now. We're going to protect those babies as well. And let me just spend one more minute on the topic du jour, mask mandates. Okay? You may have seen that I have a problem with these mask mandates, probably like everybody in this room. And by the way, the people are with us on this. And we sued St. Louis County, and we won. We won, ladies and gentlemen. 1 million people have been freed from tyranny. The government, there are going to be no vaccine passports. There are going to be no mask mandates. There are going to be no lockdowns, not under my watch. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a fight to save America. As cancel culture rages on, we're going to fight back. When Joe Biden does something crazy, which is going to happen about every single day, we are going to fight back. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to take that same fighting spirit to Washington, D.C., to represent you in the United States Senate. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in this very important fight, this noble fight to save America. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
We love them all riled up, don't we? That's awesome. A lot of energy there. So this next guest of ours is a congresswoman who's been a longtime congresswoman who just recently entered the race. And she's so very well regarded in what she has done and her standing up for President Trump. And so I want to make sure Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler is here. Oh, good, perfect. Yes, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Congresswoman Vicky Hartzler running for the U.S. Senate, state of Missouri. Good to see you. Good job. Thank you.
Well, hello, Missouri Patriots. It is so good to be with a group of people who honor the flag, who kneel to pray, and who stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm so thankful. We believe and we appreciate our motto, "In God We Trust." And we know that our freedoms and our liberties come from God. But it's up to us to defend those liberties because they are under attack right now. And in Washington, D.C., and in this country, we have the liberal teachers' unions and the socialists who want to indoctrinate our children and teach them that America is inherently a racist country and they should be ashamed of who they are through critical race theory. Well, as a former school teacher and the chairman of the House Values Action Team, I say, not on my watch. Our children should be taught accurate history, not rewritten history, that teach that America was the greatest country in this world, that the American dream is still alive and well, and they can become anybody that they want to be. And last week, I introduced a bill to make sure that this doesn't infiltrate our schools run by the Department of Defense. I'm a senior member of the Armed Services Committee. And I introduced a bill that says no CRT for our Military Kids Act. And I'm going to, Our Department of Defense oversees 160 schools on 160 installations around the world and here in America. That's about 70,000 children. And the thought that our children of men and women in uniform who are putting their lives on the lines could be taught that their country is bad is absolutely wrong, and I'm going to continue to do everything I can to make sure that those kids get an accurate education. We should be teaching the ABCs, not CRT. But it doesn't stop there in the military, and I believe there's only a few things we should be doing in Washington, but the most important thing is to provide for the common defense. And so ever since I've been there, I've been trying to rebuild the military because under President Obama, it was decimated. And I've been a champion to make sure that soldiers have what they need. But now we have a wokeness that has come into the Department of Defense. We have an admiral of the Navy who is putting on his recommended reading list the most woke books out there. We have the Secretary of Defense who did an entire day a stand down to look at extremism. Okay, guys, come off the battlefield, quit training, quit looking at China. We're going to sit in a conference room and talk about extremism today. That's what they did. And so when Secretary Austin came before our committee a few weeks ago, I followed up on 2 letters that I wrote to him. And I said, what is the definition of extremism? And he could not give an answer. And then I said, so are you saying that if you support President Trump, is that extremism? He didn't like that. And he wouldn't give an answer. But I'm going to continue to do everything I can to stand up for our men and women in uniform and their rights, because they have secured our rights. Now it's up to you and I to protect and defend their rights. But did you hear one of the latest things that they have done? They now, through Nancy Pelosi and her team, are pushing through appropriations bill that for the first time in 45 years will do away with the Hyde Amendment. In other words, they want to use our tax dollars to pay for abortions. That is wrong. I'm a pro-life leader. Like I say, I'm the chairman of the House Values Action Team. I am in this fight. I am the sponsor of the bill to defund Planned Parenthood. And I know that every life is valuable. And even if you are pro-choice in this America, you do not support this. What Nancy Pelosi is doing in her radical agenda, 60% of Americans don't even support using our tax dollars for that. So I am going to continue to fight to make sure that every life stays intact and none of our tax dollars go to pay for abortions. But under this radical team, the socialist group coming out of Washington, they are destroying everything that made this country great. It is painful to see, and I know it infuriates you as much as it does me. The liberals in Washington, the socialists, are bankrupting our nation, fueling inflation, harming our children, opening our border, defunding our police, and they are harming our children. They are destroying the country you and I love, and they must be stopped. That is why I am running for the U.S. Senate, to stop socialism, to protect our freedoms, and to preserve America's greatness for our kids and our grandkids. I am one of you, and I'm a fighter for you. I have a track record of effective, lifetime conservative leadership. I am a veteran of the wars there, and I want to take our values, our grit, our common sense ideas to the Senate, get rid of Chuck Schumer, and teach them what the values are that made this country great, and get it back to our foundational values. I am one of you. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a former conservative public school teacher that took on the unions when I was there. I'm a lifelong farmer. I'm a small business owner. I've signed the front of a paycheck, not just the back. And this common sense background fuels the decisions that I made and why we need less government, not more. The answer is freedom and not control by the socialists. And I want, with your support, to lead a movement of patriotic, show-me state patriots to rise up next year and to show the East and West Coast and the liberal socialists what heartland values, what grit, and what common sense looks like, so that we can take back the Senate, we can take back the House, and we can save and preserve our country. I ask for your support, your vote, and to join me in this effort. Let's do this together. Let's save America. Thank you.
Well, isn't it crazy to hear a Republican congressperson talk about defunding Planned Parenthood? I bet a lot of you thought that already happened, but it didn't. That's kind of the problem with the Republican Party. They keep talking about doing that, and they don't do it. And we have somebody right there in Congressman Vicky Hartzler who says, we're going to get it done. It's kind of like moving the embassy, to Jerusalem. Like, Obama's like, we just tell people we're going to do that. It's like, no, President Trump did it. So it's about time we had some Republicans who put their money where their mouth is, including defunding sanctuary cities. So thank you, Congressman Hartzler, for being there. All right, so now on to America's. Well, I think I have the list here, but I don't know whether Mark McCloskey is in the house. Are you here, Mark? Somewhere? Oh, there. Oh, perfect. Okay, good. Because I saw Billy Long over there, but I want to make sure that we recognize America's favorite neighbors, Mark McCloskey and Patty McCloskey. And I'm not kidding you, man. I'd never let a tree fall on his property, ever, never. But his history is great. You all know it. And it's another example of somebody who probably 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, never thought they would ever be where they are right now. But sometimes duty calls, and Mark McCloskey felt that in his heart, and God told him that. And so here he is as a candidate for the U.S. Senate, Mr. Mark McCloskey.
Now, my people, they give me these notes so that when I get up to talk, I know what I'm supposed to. Wait, no, that's not it. Wait, hang on one second. Wait, hang on. I got it here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Hang on. My name is Joe. That poor son of a gun thinks he's president of the United States, okay? My name's Mark McCloskey. I'm running for the United States Senate. A year and about a month ago, God came knocking on my door, disguised as an angry mob, and it kind of gave us a wake-up call. And I'm a little blurry because thanks to our good friend Cori Bush, in the last 48 hours, I've done like 5 personal appearances and 22 television shows and radio programs, so bear with me. But I start this way. How many of us think we've got a right to defend ourselves? How many of us understand that right is something we were born with and given to us by God? How many of us understand that as human beings made in the image of the Lord, we have certain rights that are given to us not by some all-powerful government, but by God himself? And so I always start with a Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that amongst these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's us, okay? How many of us here think that the people in D.C. really believe that last line, that they work for us at our discretion? That, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm here tonight. I got to witness firsthand about a year ago what happens when we have a single-party rule like we do in the city of St. Louis for the last 78 years, where crime is rampant, where there's no fear of retribution, where the mob rules, where the mob is not just supported by the government, but the mob is now the government. That young lady, Cori Bush, a year and a month ago, stood in front of my gate, chanting into a microphone, "You can't stop the revolution. You can't stop the revolution." Now that young lady had the gall to stand up in the Hall of Congress recently and say no one who supports insurrection should be allowed to walk the halls of Congress, meaning our Senator Josh Hawley. And yet she stood right in front of me advocating the violent overthrow of the United States, and now she's a U.S. congressman. That, ladies and gentlemen, is emblematic of everything that's wrong in this country. So here's my story. I've been a lifelong Republican, but I've never been interested in running for a political office, but when the things happened to us last year, first on June the 28th when they attacked our house the first time, and then again on July the 3rd when they came back. And by the way, on July the 3rd when they came back, by the time they hit our gate, we had 6 ex-Navy SEALs, we had 10 secondary employment police officers, we had the FBI light aircraft circling the house. We had what we used to call peace through superior firepower. But that young lady, Cori Bush, was standing in front of us chanting, "You can't stop the revolution. You can't stop the revolution." Well, my personal security, a SEAL named Jim, resting his hands on the butt of his M4, says, "Oh, yes, I can." But that was the night President Trump gave his Mount Rushmore address, and he talked about defeating Marxist extremism in this country. Well, I didn't get a chance to see it that night. We were a little preoccupied trying to stay alive, but I watched it the next morning, and then I watched the mass media response, and the media talked about that speech as being the most divisive speech a president could give. Like what? We're supposed to live in harmony with the Marxists who seek to destroy our way of life and our civilization and put us in re-education camps? That's what we're supposed to do? My wife and I looked at each other and said, if that's what the mass media is selling, if that's what's out there in this country, there's something basically and seriously wrong. And we just made a decision that day to put the rest of our lives on hold and do what we could to save this country. So we went to work for the Trump Organization. We went on the Trump team bus. We did 2 tours through Pennsylvania, went down to Texas and went through Texas twice with Colonel Allen West. And then we did Missouri and Oklahoma and Kansas. And ladies and gentlemen, doing 7 rallies a day for the president, there were 2 things we learned every day. One is that the people out there in this country are just sick and tired of the status quo. They're sick and tired of cancel culture. They're sick and tired of the poison of critical race theory. They're sick and tired of the big lie of systemic racism. They're sick and tired of watching our civil liberties be eroded every day. And then we learned something else. That is, at every place we stopped and we got off the bus and we talked to just regular human beings, every day we learned a story of a personal miracle in people's lives, where Jesus had come to people and said, this is your purpose in life. This is your motivation in life. This is what you need to do to make your miracle happen. And we heard stories from hundreds of people of how that miracle did happen in their lives. And Patty and I looked at each other and said, this is what's happening to us. We have gotten this calling from God. We need to spend the rest of our lives doing what we can to save this country. Because, ladies and gentlemen, every time I got off that bus, I'd tell the audiences that this country is so close to the end of everything we hold near and dear, that the federal government, if we don't take back control, they're going to impose national voting laws. They're going to nationalize the police. They're going to do away with the Second Amendment with a stroke of a pen. They're going to do away with the First Amendment through continued cancel culture. They're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to ask for D.C. and Puerto Rican statehood. They're going to make this a one-party state. We now have a president that recently said that he has the sole authority to say what is information and what is misinformation and censor what we get to hear and see. That's not a free democracy. That's a tyranny, okay? We have the Secretary of State of the United States of America, which is supposed to be a sovereign nation, calling in the United Nations to investigate us, okay? We've got Alejandro Mayorkas, whose own parents escaped from Cuban communism, who told the Cuban refugees trying to flee communism that if they risk their life to get here, even if they can prove that they'd be subject to persecution and even torture if they get sent back, we won't let them in. While we have a completely open border and 200,000 illegal aliens through the south border were captured last month, and who knows how many else weren't, being bused throughout the country in local communities with COVID, without vaccination, with drugs, and with criminal elements. And this is a government that's working not for us, but against us. And I haven't got a lot of time here today, but I got to tell you, what I see around the country and what I've experienced, I'm a 64-year-old man. I'm old enough to remember when this was really a free country. We're old enough to remember when the government did not invade every aspect of our lives, when we didn't have people at something called the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention dictating economic policy and telling us whether or not we can collect rents from our tenants Who voted for them, all right? We've got Lord God Fauci making policy for all of us. Who voted for him? We now have a country run by entrenched bureaucrats, by leftist elected officials of both parties. And ladies and gentlemen, I call this now a post-political time in America. You cannot trust the government to protect your rights because the government is doing everything it can to sweep all our civil liberties away. You know that big tech's out there to take our liberties away. You know the big corporations are now hand in hand with the government. Think about the NFL giving $250 million with a B to Black Lives Matter, an avowed communist organization. Why don't they just give it to the Cuban government? I mean, this is how far left our country has slipped. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a time when each and every one of us has to take a personal stand for our own freedom. Each and every one of us must vow that we're going to take our liberties back. Each and every one of us needs to make a personal vow that we will withdraw that consent of the governed until the government starts to recognize once again that they work at our discretion. We don't work at their discretion, that our rights are something we have given to us by human beings made in the image of the Lord. We don't have some privileges handed down to us by the government. Ladies and gentlemen, this bold experiment in freedom that we call the United States of America is the first government in the history of the world where our founding documents were designed to protect us against the government, not to create a government to rule us. And that is at stake right now. Each and every one of us needs to, well, I'll go back on one more thing. COVID. You know, I always figured that at some point in my life, FEMA would create some kind of fictitious crisis and tell us we're all under house arrest. Go home. Don't go to your businesses. Don't go to school. Don't go to church. Don't go see your own parents dying in the hospital. But I figured they'd have to put a gun to our head to make us comply. And then a year ago last spring, the government just said that. They said, everybody go home. Don't go to work. Don't go to your church. Don't go to your school. I call it the final exam on American freedom. The government asked that, and virtually everybody just complied. There wasn't revolution. There wasn't disorder in the streets. Everybody just laid down and died because the government asked them to. And that's when I realized that this has gone too far. What greater imposition on freedom could the government ask than they did last year? And so, ladies and gentlemen, that was a final exam on American freedom, and virtually all of us flunked. So now it's a new time. Now it's a new day in America. Now we need to stand up and every one of us make a personal commitment and say, we are not sheep. We are free Americans. We will not comply. We will withdraw that consent of the governed until the government actually represents us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah. Wine coolers, AR-15s, and pink shirts. Imagine, that's what we grew here. Thank you, Mark McCloskey. Appreciate that very much. By the way, Rick and Jerry Pogue, good to see you guys. These two guys, by the way, father and son, have been single-handedly supporting conservative radio, conservative talk for heaven knows how long. Can you guys stand up, please, so we can thank you for all that you guys have done. Just as a small business, you know. And I know you guys took a private jet here just because you can. I know what you did, or your helicopter, or whatever else is. But great to see you, Peepaw. And right on. All right, so our next speaker is a congressman that I had the pleasure of meeting a long time ago, back when Ted Cruz was down in Springfield, and he took over the seat of Congressman Roy Blunt, who was congressman at the time, and he has a great story. He probably won't have a whole lot of time to tell it, but listen, I had him on the air the other day, and he didn't get into politics until the age of 55 because he spent so much time in the trenches as a business person, and he's an auctioneer, so hold on to whatever you have of value because he might sell it. But ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Billy Long.
Thank you, Jamie. And I know we already did this a little bit earlier, but when you say your prayers tonight, if you could keep Steve Walsh in those, when I read Sarah's tweet yesterday, I was just crestfallen. I tweeted and I said, Steve, I've never seen him frown, and he's always in a good mood. And I didn't know that it was COVID. I knew that he was in the hospital with something serious from her tweet. So if you all can keep Steve Walsh, and you're a great, great guy, great family, Sarah. So anyway, I usually don't like to start off on a downer like that, but it just kind of touched me whenever I heard that or saw the tweet yesterday. You all can consider me your pickle. You know, when you go to the deli and you get your sandwich and they give you your sandwich and your chips and everything, you look down and I don't even like pickles, but there's a pickle on there. And you're like, I didn't order pickle. Oh, that's our surprise for you. Well, I'm your surprise for here because you didn't know I'd be here tonight because they were only letting senatorial candidates speak. And until Tuesday night, I wasn't in the race. So I'm your pickle. I'm the one you didn't expect to see here. So I'll try and do a good job for a pickle. But my name's Billy Long, and I'm going to give you this a couple of times, billylong.com, because it's going to tie into what I'm going to tell you here. But billylong.com, remember, that's a pretty easy website to remember. But I wanted to run for Congress back in '96, whenever Mel Hancock gave it up, and Roy Blunt ran. And I thought about it for about 15 minutes because our girls were 7 and 10. And I decided I didn't want to raise them in Washington, D.C., and I didn't want to be a long-distance dad, so I didn't give it any serious consideration. But I've always been interested in politics, always had conservative viewpoints. I did talk radio for 6 years in Springfield while I was an auctioneer and a real estate broker during that 31-year period. And when I went to run for Congress, my general consultants said I was too fat, that they wouldn't put me on TV. They said, we can't put Billy on TV looking in the camera because he's too fat, and he wears a cowboy hat. Now, remember that, okay? And 2 weeks out, I was in an 8-way primary, so I know what it is to come through a tough primary. I was in an 8-way primary. 2 weeks out, I'm down in the polls for the first time. One of my guys went to my consultant. He said, you don't put Billy on TV. You don't let Billy be Billy. He said, he loses. So I went and cut an ad, sat down in a chair, looked in the TV camera, and I said, my name's Billy Long. I'm running for Congress. I may not look the part, i.e. I'm too fat, but I guarantee I'll be the part. I'll do the right thing for the right reason every day that I'm there. I blew it out. I won by 8 points in an 8-way primary. I was 55 years old when I got sworn in, so somebody tries to tell you I'm a career politician, you might have them look that up in the dictionary, because I don't think it starts out by saying it's a 55-year-old person being sworn into office for their first time. But this time when the seat opened up, when Kit Bond said he was going to retire and Roy Blunt said he was running, I stood up in my living room, raised my right hand, I said, I'm in. And that's how I got started in that race. I planned my birthday. I'll be 66 years old next Wednesday. I had this big birthday party planned. Anybody ever heard of Kellyanne Conway? Anybody know Kellyanne? Kellyanne was coming in. She was coming into Springfield for my birthday party next Wednesday. And we billed it as Billy Long's birthday party. And it really was. I mean, if you notice how old senators and congressmen look, because we all have 3 birthdays a year, it's a great chance to raise money. They'll send you out a thing, say, come to Billy's birthday February 7th. And then, you know, in April, they'll say, come to Billy's birthday April 19th. And then November, come to Billy's birthday. So we all have 3 birthdays a year. But this is actually my birthday on next Wednesday. And so Kellyanne was coming in for my birthday. Special announcement. We were going to have a big special announcement. Well, I don't have people, okay? Most everybody else running, you know, they've been in politics since they were in their 20s, and their people have people. I didn't have any people, so I had to put together a world-class team. My auction company, the slogan was, when you want it done right. And in politics, I do the same thing, when you want it done right. So I had to put together a world-class team, so I was going to announce next Wednesday. Fox News, I was talking to somebody from Fox up in D.C., and I told them my plan. I said, I'm going to announce, because, I mean, it's the, you know, worst-kept secret in Missouri politics that I was getting in the race. I mean, either I was getting in or I'm bad on geography, because I've been all over the state at these type of events. And so Fox News, I told a guy, and he said, well, if you're going to announce on your birthday, how would you like to do it on Tucker's show? I said, in front of 3 million people? I think I could do that. And so my timeline got pushed up, so I got on a train last Tuesday, went up to New York City, and went to see the president on the 26th floor of the Trump Tower. We talked. He was on one side of his desk. I was on the other. Two people in the room, me and the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and do you miss him yet? And I said, this is something you'll never see Trump do during a 2-hour speech. I don't know how he does it, but he never drinks water if you watch him do a speech. So anyway, we're sitting there, and we start, and we're 45 minutes, just the two of us. And we're talking, and he brought up some point, and he said, do you think that's politically advantageous? And I said, I don't care. And he looked at me, and he said, you don't care, do you? And I said, no, Mr. President, I don't care. I never look at a situation whether it's politically advantageous or not. And I think that's one of the things people like about me, is that I do the right thing for the right reason every day I'm in Washington, D.C. And I don't care about the politics. If you worry about good policy, the politics will follow. And if you could see the look on his face, he said, you really don't care, do you? And he appreciated what I said, but I said, we're just alike. I said, nobody liked you. I said, when you came to when you came to NRCC, if you remember the first time in July of 16, Paul Ryan and Kevin McCall, all the leaders are up front, and I stood up and I told you, I looked at you and I said, and he had all his kids there, and I said, Mr. Trump, your problem is here. Now, this is right before the Cleveland Convention in 16, July of 16. I said, the people in this room are not for you. That's a problem. I originated the phrase Trump train. We were working, I told him, I said, we were in my apartment the other day, and I named the person he knew I was with because they're doing my fundraising. We were calling to get people to come to my birthday party. And this person sat down on my couch, and they said, what's your Wi-Fi password? I said, how would I know what my Wi-Fi password is? And they said, well, you ought to know. And I said, well, look on the box. It might be on the cable box, because sometimes we write it down there. So I went over, no, not there. I said, well, look in the closet. Sometimes there's a cable box in there. The box that came, we write it down. No, it wasn't there. They came back and said, I can't. I said, Trump train. They said, what? I said, Trump train is my password. It just came to me. Back in 2016, when I moved into this apartment, I made my password Trump train. And I told him that story. He got a big kick out of that. And so anyway, he said, so you're in? I said, yes. I said, I'm going to run for Senate, and I'm going to win it. I'm the one that can win it, Mr. President. He said, you're going to get in without my endorsement? I said, I'm going to win it with or without your endorsement. I said, I would love to have your endorsement, but I'm going to win it either way. And I think that he appreciates someone that has skin in the game. I can't go back to Congress. You know, I'm done in Congress, so I can't go back and I can't run for 2 seats at once. And I said, but I need your support, and here's why I need it. You get 3-for-1 sale here. You endorse me, and you're going to have someone that can win not only the primary and will win the primary, but that can and will win the general without a bunch of money being spent on that general race. Now, we put the wrong person in there, and you're going to have $40, $50 million of Republican money that's going to be spent in Missouri, a red state, with a Republican senator that you shouldn't have to defend that hard. And that's money you could spend in Arizona picking up a seat we should have never, ever lost, Mr. President. And in Georgia, you're going to have to spend the money in Missouri that you could spend in Georgia to pick up that seat that we should have never, ever lost. So that was my pitch to the president. When I went over and I did the Tucker Carlson, of course, my team, Kellyanne, and everybody on the team is prepping me about what he wants to ask me and what to be sure to get out these points and those points and everything. So I go over there. They literally strapped me in a chair for, I think they're afraid if I fell down, they couldn't pick me up or something. But they literally strapped me in a chair for 1 hour and 45 minutes, and I'm there for 1 hour and 45 minutes watching them interview all these other folks ahead of me, waiting for my time to go. Well, he opens up and he goes, well, President Biden last night called the Republicans. He said they were nothing but fears, lies, and broken promises. Not what we were supposed to talk about at all, but okay, I'll roll with the punches. He said, what do you think about President Biden saying the Republicans are good for nothing but lies, fears, and broken promises? I said, well, let's start with fears. Let's go with fears first. How about the fear of taking your family to a restaurant, sitting outside? Logan Circle in Washington, D.C., which is not a bad area, has had 3 shootings since July the 1st. A lot of injured civilians and dead. One guy got killed, went there 53-year-old to have dinner with his wife, got caught in the crossfire. None of the intended victims, to my knowledge, were shot in these 3 different shootings. There's 200 less police officers today in Washington, D.C. than there was 1 year ago. Springfield, Missouri, they announced that they're closing down hours. They were shutting down, lowering their hours on their hours of operation at the police station. Nobody wants to be a policeman anymore because of defund the police. So I said, if you want to talk about fear, let's talk about that type of fear. If you want to talk about lies, let's talk about that there's no crisis at the southern border. Tucker, let's talk about that. There's no crisis at the southern border. There's no problem at all. I was down there 3 weeks ago maybe with the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and we're down there at the border, and he had me auction off he loves it when I auction stuff. He always wants me to, I auctioned the Stanley Cup last year in the Rose Garden. You can Google that one. But the St. Louis Stanley Cup. And so anyway, he said, I said, the border is secure according to the Democrats, there's no problem. But I said, you don't even have to go to the border, Tucker. All you need to do is go to the McAllen Airport and sit there and watch them put on hundreds and hundreds of illegal aliens on commercial airliners with no ID, no real ID, no driver's license, no passport. We don't know who these people are. They've all got a big manila envelope with instructions written on it, a free cell phone that you all paid for with free minutes on it. They put them on airplanes sitting next to you. They haven't been tested I said, they don't test them for COVID when they come in. They don't make them wear a mask when they come in, but they make our school children wear a mask. Springfield, Missouri just announced the other day our school kids are going to have to wear a mask this year. And they don't wear masks, they don't test them for COVID, and then they send them all over the country, and they don't tell these cities they're coming into, they don't tell the fathers of those cities that they're bringing them in. So if you all want to fund the police, seal up the border, kick critical race theory out of our schools, then it all starts with the Senate. We've got to take the Senate back. You can go hear political speeches like this all the time. I'm going to stop Joe Biden from doing this. I want to stop Joe Biden. I'm not going to let Chuck Schumer do this. I'm sorry, but you're not. You're not going to stop him from anything until we get back in power. That's just the way it is. I mean, you could lie to yourself and say you're going to fight back, and we can't even bring a bill to the floor. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want us to bring a bill to the floor. You can't bring any bill to the floor. So until we take the Senate back, which I'm the guy that can win this seat in Missouri, trust me. When I ran the first time, I was too fat. I wore a cowboy hat. I told Mr. Trump, I said, I was just like you. Nobody liked me. My party, I said, I went to the convention in Cleveland. I sat in the friends and family box 2 nights in a row with all the Trump kids. People would see me on TV. Hey, look, Billy's in the friends and family box. He's in the friends and family box. I said, I got on a flight to fly back to Springfield, Missouri, flew through Chicago, landed in Chicago. I'm going to the Target Barbecue in Greene County, Missouri. Big Republican gathering. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I'm the guy that originated Trump train. I'm the guy that's been telling them from 9 days after you came down the escalator, I tweeted my first pro-Trump tweet. I was with you that long ago. And I said, so I'm in Chicago. I've been to the convention, sitting with your kids 2 nights at the convention in the friends and family box. And so I land in Chicago. My campaign manager calls and says, you're not speaking tonight at the Target Barbecue in Greene County, Missouri. I said, I'm not? No, you're not speaking. Who's speaking? Well, we're going to have somebody speak that didn't go to the convention. The Greene County Republican Party wasn't for Trump. And they didn't want to hear from me, their congressman, about how Trump was going to win it. I said, you know, they hate you, they hate me, Mr. Trump. I said, we're just alike. And so we had back in November, I'd been on the ballot. I'd been in office 9 years and 10 months back in November. People hate Congress, they hate their congressman. I got the highest raw vote total I've ever received, and I got the highest percentage I've ever received after being there 9 years and 10 months. But people appreciate me telling it like it is, not saying I'm going to stop this and stop that when you can't stop it. We got to take the Senate back. We've got to take the House back. And one last story to wrap up with. And last November during the election, the night of the election, I go, and my buddy Jason Smith, Jason and Brett Guthrie are probably my 2 best friends in Congress. And nothing against you, Vicki, you're a good friend too. But, you know, and so they're telling my best, well, so we get there in Greene County, Missouri, our big thing, the governor's there, it's our big watch party. I have dinner with a bunch of friends, and, you know, Trump wins Florida, Trump wins Ohio early. I said, it's over, it's over. So we're going out to the big watch party to declare Trump the winner. And I go in. Walk around. They said, well, the governor's across the hall, and Teresa, oh, I want to go see the governor and Teresa. So I walk over there, talk to them, come back. I didn't mention Jason's our MC. This is the 7th district. He's from the 8th, but he's our MC. I'm good with that. I know they don't like me down there, you know, even though the people do. I get the highest vote total I've ever gotten, but the people in the party, I beat their candidate in 2010. They've never gotten over it because I was the fat auctioneer. I wasn't supposed to win. And so I go back across the hall to go back in the room. Sorry, Billy, we're full. What? Yeah, COVID restrictions. I'm not making this up. They wouldn't let me come in the room. So I turned around and went home, and I told Trump this. I said, they don't like you. They don't like me. We're just alike. So I'm hoping that he will endorse in this race. It's a 3-for-1 sale. We can get back that seat in Arizona, get back the seat in Georgia, and hold a safe, easy Republican seat. And the reason I said to go to billylong.com, we're starting a bus tour next year. We'll be in 4 corners of the state. Kellyanne Conway is going to be up here next Wednesday, maybe with me. If you want to come out and see her, we're kicking off at PFI next Tuesday, 8 o'clock in the morning, where I kicked off last time down there. But if you go to billylong.com, you will see my 4-minute interview with Tucker Carlson, which I recommend to you. But you'll also see a 43-foot wrapped Billy bus. And I thought, last time they told me how I should campaign and what I should do. This time I'm kind of calling my own shots on some of this stuff. So I went 2.5 months ago, got a fresh new picture of me taken of my fat face in my cowboy hat. That thing is plastered on the side of my bus because they can like it or lump it. God bless you.
All right, no one can question the diversity of our U.S. Senate candidates. Is that correct? Oh, no, it's awesome. It's awesome. All right, so countdown to Candace, and there are 2 really important people. We wouldn't all be here, and Candace wouldn't either, if we didn't have 2 guys who have made it their life commitment to liberty, to our Constitution. I told you about Paul Curtman earlier, Senator Bill Eigel. I remember when he was first running and was so impressed by his energy and his passion. And of course, now he's on the radio with 93.3 Real Talk, so that's going to be awesome. And Paul's over there at News Talk STL. So these 2 guys are not competing. They're just messaging on our behalf, which is the way it should be. The more voices, the better.